Hey, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we're going to start a multi-part tutorial series where I'm going to break down my Ferrofluid Speakerbox scene. You can download this scene from my Patreon. This scene has several different controls exposed. We have feedback. We have an auto feedback, which makes it audio reactive. I'm also playing audio in the background, and you can see this by the little bar here. We have a color selector, which you use as a seed color to generate millions of different palettes based on what you pick. We have time rate, which controls the time or the speed of our geometry. We have a FOV, stands for field of view, and this is for our camera control. We have geometry control, which controls the cutout size of the speaker box, as well as an audio reactive override. We can control the distance in which the light appears, also with an audio reactive override. We have a flip, which is a post-process effect. Also can do it automatically. And then finally we have a glitch, which we can turn on by turning the toggle on and increasing the glitch power. Today we're going to modify this camera control and expand upon the already existing code. So let's get started. If you're not already in edit mode, you're going to want to edit this scene. You can do this by loading the scene in Synesthesia and clicking edit current scene. And then let's pop it open in VS Code. We'll just go ahead and open the 3 files. So here's the main.glsl, and the camera can be located at the bottom in our render function. So RO stands for ray origin, and this is the physical location of your camera in space. So right now I'm saying that we are 20 steps backwards from the origin. RD, this stands for ray direction, and this defines the direction in which our camera is facing. So the basic setup is you use the UVC built-in coordinates. This centers the UV in the screen so that it ranges from -1 to 1 on both the X and Y axis. And then our field of view is defined as a floating point value for the third floating point in our Vec3. So here you can see our FOV control as well, and this is reflected in our synesthesia scene. So just to start off, let's say we want to zoom in even further. We could increase this to 4, and then we'll go back to synesthesia. I'm going to press Control R to reload, and already you can see that the range has increased for our FOV slider. So let's take a look at maybe making this audio reactive. Currently what's happening is we're using a mix function here, and we're mixing between a value of 0.5 for our field of view, which is very zoomed out, and a value of 4.0, which is honestly maybe too far zoomed in for my liking. And then we are interpolating between these values based on our FOV control, which is defined here in our scene.json. So coming back out to the main.glsl, let's look at making this field of view an audio reactive control. This is a shortcut VS Code. If you highlight this and then press open parenthesis, it'll wrap it in parentheses for you. And then we're going to say mix. We have our FOV as our first value, and then let's say we'll do syn level. This should result in a poppy sort of camera zoom that coincides with the overall volume of the audio. And then we're going to name this control. Let's go ahead and say just auto zoom. So this looks fine and dandy, and I'm going to go ahead and purposely load this without defining the control so that we can see what an error looks like. So you can see here the console output has this little red dot and an error has been logged, undefined variable auto zoom. So this is telling us that we have not yet created our control. So we're going to come back over to our scene.json file. We're going to copy this FOV and then we're going to paste it underneath. Get rid of that extra curly. Then we're going to switch this to a toggle, and we'll call this auto zoom so that it coincides with what's in our main.glsl. We're going to leave it in the camera group, and I think this we're going to change this default to 0. So this means our toggle will start in the off position. We'll come back to Synesthesia, reload. We got the green dot confirmed, it's loaded. And we can also confirm because we have our auto zoom toggle here. Let's go ahead and turn that on. And sure enough, it's bouncing pretty close though. So let's go ahead and trim that back. I don't think it's quite as poppy as I'd like it to be. So let's change this to syn hits for now, and then I'll break down what's happening here. That is aggressive. We'll compromise. We'll multiply it by syn level. Let's just multiply it by syn presence too while we're here. That's better. Yeah, okay. So what did we just do? If you'll recall, we initially had just had this one interpolation function. It was using just the FOV slider to mix between our A value of 0.5 and our B value of 2.0. So now we've created we're using another interpolation, linear interpolation, for the actual mix value of our mix function. So what's happening now is when I toggle on auto zoom, the value goes to 1, and as it goes to 1, it switches between the value of our FOV control and the value that is produced by syn hits times syn level times syn presence. So we can see that here our auto zoom is on, we have a value of 1, and it's being controlled by our audio reactivity. When we turn this off, it quickly dropped back to FOV, and you can see now we are in control here. So that's pretty good. I think maybe this is too in my face, so I'm going to go back and change it. And I'm just going to pull out the syn hits, and let's go ahead and do a base level. So just to cover it, here we are grabbing the value, deriving it from syn base level, and multiplying it by syn presence. So what this is going to do is it's going to allow the shape to pop as the bass hits, but it won't ever, like, the syn presence, multiplying it there is going to keep us from having it pop when the song's like not really doing anything. You know, this could just be a blip in the audio signal, especially if you're using like a microphone. So let's go ahead and see this in action. This is much better. but maybe still too much motion. Let's revisit this in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and turn off auto zoom. And then let's look at another important step. So let's look at moving the physical camera. Currently we're just messing with the field of view, which is like the zooming of the camera. But let's take a look at when we move this value. So this is our, as I stated earlier, our ray origin. It's a vector 3. So we have our X, our Y, and our Z position. So let me go ahead and move the Z. Let's do another mix function here. And we'll say, let's physically move our object from -20 to 0. So we're going to be moving from 20 steps back to the origin. And let's do this on just send presence. Let's see what happens. And I'm going to go ahead and space this out here. I like that a lot more than just the field of view. And it looks like my music cut. Here it comes again. So that's pretty cool. And then just for the sake of it, let's go ahead and take a look at, alright, maybe I spoke too soon. Let's not go all the way to 0. Let's go to 10. Oh, but it's -10. We'll come here and reload, and nice, that's much better. Okay, cool. So now, just for the sake of the lesson, let's look at moving these values. So here's a standard, just a 1 unit up. Okay, so let's go ahead and make this a sine function. And we're going to use the built-in time for this example. And so, as we know, sine will fluctuate from -1 to 1. And we can go ahead and see this here. It's definitely moving up and down. Let's make it a little more drastic. We're going to multiply it by 2. Okay, cool. And then we can make this into a circle. We're going to or like a circle pattern. We're going to go ahead and copy that value, paste it here, and then switch this to cosine. And now we're reloading, and we see our camera is moving in a circular motion inside of our space. Our geometry is staying the same, in the same location. I'm going to go ahead and back out these changes. I just wanted to show you how you can move the camera in various directions. And then one thing that I think is very important to look at is rotation. So we can rotate our camera by manipulating the ray direction, the RD vector. So we're going to do rd.xy is equal to rotate rd.xy, and then we're going to use the time variable again here. So this should spin the camera, and we can see here it does. Let's throw on that auto zoom again for fun. That's pretty cool. Oh, and we have the camera moving forward, so maybe we turn auto zoom off. It's spinning a little fast, so I'm going to go ahead and, I guess while we're here actually, let's take advantage of this dynamic time. I think this is no longer needed. We'll remove this and see if it causes this issue. Dynamic time is based on the time slider in the project, or on the UI, and that's actually being defined here in the script, but we'll get to that in another tutorial. So now we have it tied to the dynamic time. Let's Control R, it's moving even faster now, but we can see that it is tied to this time rate slider. Let's slow it down though. Oftentimes I find that rotating the camera, you really need to throw like a 0.1 on here to start, and slow is good. It's something I'm still learning, but in a live setting it's nice to not jar people and really let your work do the talking. This is a pretty nice little vibe here. Move that light back. Yeah, I like that. So let me think. I think the best way to show alternate rotations with still giving us something to look at is probably to move the camera inside of the environment a bit. We will clip the geometry, but it's worth it for the example. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and multiply this by 0. And so that's now making our ray at the origin. Actually, let's see how bad this is. Okay, this was not the move. Let's we're gonna do this. We'll come here. We'll say move forward. We're gonna make that a control, and we're just gonna make it a slider. And let's put it here. We'll copy this one. And then I'm gonna go, I'll put it underneath. The order does matter. Certain toggles, or the toggle, depending on the control type, it will order itself. But if in the case of the same control type, so 2 sliders in the same group, it goes first come, first serve. So we'll name this move forward. Something I overlooked here, and it is an important distinction. The mix function, this third value, ideally is, or should be, a value between 0 and 1. This means that at 0 we're getting 100% of A, and at 1 we're getting 100% of B, and anywhere in between is the mixture. So let's go ahead and we're going to make this -5. We'll see what that looks like. We'll reload, Control R, and we can see it worked because we have our move forward slider here, and we are moving forward. So now that we're able to move forward, let's go ahead and look at rotation in other directions. We are still currently spinning, but I want to give you a good idea. So here is XZ. We want to be sure that this aligns. We want these to be the same vector. If not, you'll get sometimes interesting but often bad results. But you shouldn't not try sometimes. So let's go ahead and I'm going to comment out this. I can do this by pressing Control / in VS Code, and it'll automatically comment out the line. Then let's do the sine function again, and we're going to do it with time, and we're going to say 0.1. And this should rotate our camera left and right. It does indeed. Honestly, I really like that look. I think it looks like going all the way to 1 is probably not going to be viable for us. Oh? Spoke too soon. It's a nice little look. So, and as you can imagine, we'll copy this, and we're going to switch this to YZ. Comment out the XZ line, and now our camera should rotate up and down. Maybe 0.1's a bit too slow here. You could experiment with the speed of things. Yeah, just to give yourself a better view. And then I think what could be interesting is let's go ahead and make an XY control that'll allow us to just look around in the world as we please. So we're going to uncomment these. We want left and right, so I'm going to define this control after. We're going to make an XY controller and we're going to call it camera. We're going to call it look. And we're going to use look.x and look.y here. And the .x and .y correspond to the two values that'll come from our XY control. We're going to copy this move forward. We're going to make this an XY. We're going to make the default 0. We're going to make the minimum -1. And then we're going to rename it to look. And let's go ahead and reload our scene. And we can see now that we're looking around with our control. And that's pretty cool. In a blob. Yeah, and you can see it zoomed out. There's a lot of nothingness out there right now, but we are able to move our camera, which is nice. Alright, so let's kind of put it together here. We'll wrap this up. What's cool? Let's make it spin and maybe move forward a bit. Alright, we're going to go ahead and default these controls. Then we have our auto zoom. I think I'm going to make a new control group here actually. And to do that, we're going to, let's move this auto zoom up back to by FOV. And then we're going to just rename this UI group to camera zoom. We'll reload, and we can see that we've separated our control group. And this will keep us more organized. So we know we have this poppy effect. But I think I'm more focused on moving the camera for now. So, let's see. We want to, do we have an auto forward? We don't. Alright, let's make an auto move forward. We'll copy our move forward, paste, auto forward. We're going to 0, and we're going to switch this to a toggle. Then let's go define that in our main.glsl. So again, we're going to, I double click the move forward to highlight it. I shift open parenthesis, and this is going to be the start of our mix function. So we have mix, move forward, that's our manual value, and then I really liked syn presence when we had it earlier. It was nice and smooth, so let's do that as our B value, and then we'll say auto forward, and we're going to save. That looks good. Let's go test it out. That looks nice. And let's go ahead and turn the spin on too. But for the spin, let's make it a control as well. So I liked using the dynamic time, but let's maybe do for this one we're gonna mix the actual vector itself, and I'll show you why. Because so this dynamic time, this value is ever increasing. So if we say wanted to do mix between that and, or let's say between 0.0 and dynamic time, even at a 0.5, and we're going to say spin, auto spin. No, we'll just call it spin. And let me show you what happens. So we'll define this control. We're going to say spin, and then we'll reload. And so it looks good right now. We clicked spin, our value went to 1, and it switched over to the value being produced by dynamic time. But now dynamic time is significantly raised in value. So when we click spin to go back to 0, it's going to spin a lot. And you can see that there. And so what's going to happen is as your scene continues to play, that time value is going to keep increasing, and you're going to get crazier and crazier spins when you're trying to turn the spinning function off. So to avoid that, we're going to go back to the main.glsl. We'll pull this out for now. Let's go back to dynamic time. I kind of liked it at the 0.5. Maybe we'll meet it in the middle and say 0.25. So instead, we're going to interpolate between this rotated vector and just the regular vector before the rotation. So we're going to, for that, we'll say mix. Our a value is rd.xy. That is the xy vector not rotated. Our rotating vector here, and we'll put the spin as our mix value, the spin control. Let's try this out. Okay, it's looking good for now. Let's give it some time. Maybe we'll turn on this, where's the light control? Get a little pop going. Alright, and then we turn the spin off and it comes right back. It's not anything too crazy. You know, a little bit of turning, but it looks smooth and clean. Let's try some different color in here. A pro tip for my scenes is that the gray values, using this palette code, this palette function, always produce the best results, in my opinion. This is looking nice. I hope you found this tutorial useful, and I look forward to breaking down more controls in the future. I think next we will look at geometry or light placement. Let me know if you have a preference on where we start. Thanks.